Good morning, everybody. It is 7:21 in the morning on Friday, April 6th, 2018, and it is big news day. Big news day. We always get big news on this kind of a day. Excuse me. So in about 9 minutes, we are going to get the employment rate, non-farm payrolls, earnings, all that jazz. And that is always a big market mover. At 9 o'clock, we get Canada's unemployment. So we got a lot of volatility. PPI comes out at what day is that? That's next week. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so we've got a few minutes before that all that jazz comes out. Let's take a peek at our trades over the last day here. So, we took a long in the U.S. Canadian dollar at 127.78, and that trade turned out pretty nice. It was a little choppy throughout the day, came down a bit. I just closed the longs that I had in that probably 2 minutes before we started talking. And then the New Zealand dollar. Let's see. We had a short at 72.95. Beautiful short that we got into yesterday. That New Zealand dollar just capitulated. I mean, this move that we experienced all week was just really extended and deserved to get some retracement. So, very nice and powerful drive down. It was very divergent on multiple days, multiple long and short time frames. It had to peel off a lot of this move. It was not sustainable. Euro dollar. We had a couple entries for this. We wanted to go short at 122.50, 122.6, or 122.7. So we had a few options that played out there. The euro did not move much, really. I mean, if we go back to yesterday when we were just kind of getting off the horn, we traveled, about 40 pips down, 40, 50 pips. Not a huge amount of movement there, so, just kind of keep your eye on that. Wasn't one of the big one. I did close our shorts in the MAM account on this one. Then the pound dollar, we went short. We wanted to go short at a break and hold below 140.17. And that's currently where we're at now. But yesterday that did happen where we did fall down through. We had a nice drive down, shortly after we got done talking to each other. We had a nice push down from that zone, and that has been a profitable trade. The pound dollar trade has actually been a really fantastic trade for us. We're gonna go more into depth on this trade as we get further into the day here. Probably maybe looking to go short right off the bat here, but we'll see. And then the dollar yen, which has also been a phenomenal trade for us. We wanted to go long at any pullbacks to 107 or between 106.7 and 106.5. We really did not get to entertain any of that because we just shot up yesterday. And we shot up, tried to drift back down, and then we just came back up. So we've been floating around here pretty nicely, finding a lot of support on the pullbacks. So we should actually expect this to continue. We're going to analyze this trade over for next week and looking at it and how we traded it this week as well. US dollar, Canadian dollar. We wanted to go. There was another trade I put in later on, short before I logged off, at excuse me, along at a return to 128.36, and that's going to be up here. That was using the Ichimoku cloud. That was what we were basing that off of. All right. Now, let's just kind of, we got 4 minutes, so let's just kind of chill for 4 minutes. We've probably got a little time to review let's kind of look at the pound real quick. Let's look at this on a weekly chart. Now, on the weekly, let's just clear this all out. This is a pretty ugly setup for any condition to go long on the pound dollar. You know, we can really look to see that there's a few ways to draw our trend lines here based on these longer time frames. That is one, certainly. And then we've got one here. One there. And also, we've got this guy. Okay, so if we look at how these are operating, this isn't really parabolic, but this is a good description of how, if you remember, if you're new, parabolic moves are any move where you have an uptrend, and then you have the slope of it increases. So we have a steady uptrend, but then it gets higher, and then it gets higher. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could also take a look at the short term as well. You know, we could look here from this bottom to there, or to there, or to here, probably here. You know, that is just bring this back down to the daily. I mean, we're looking at a very extended uptrend move, and we should peel off some of this. So regardless of what happens in the next minute, we should be looking at a nice short trade here. Let's go back to the weekly. Let's take it from this like long-term swing back on the in October of 2016. To our high swing, which is up here actually. And so we're kind of, looking towards maybe retracing towards the 130 area. And, actually finding some type of activity here at the 1.375. Okay, we just got the news out. And let's watch how these markets react. U.S. average weekly hours was as expected. Bring it down to the hourly. This is how the pound is moving. And the dollar yen is moving like that. The euro dollars moving like this. Gold caught a bid. Let's see what there is to see. That good thing pulled out of that Canadian dollar trade. That one took a little bit of a drive down there. dollar yen is, you know, I'm not really seeing anything that would indicate that there's some bearish activity. So, I mean, not overly concerned. Looking at the Canadian dollar, if we want to take a peek at that one quick, you know, we did get a nice drive down, but this might be a good opportunity for a long here. Just want to watch it play out first. I like to play these news releases kind of counter if they move, certainly if they move significantly counter to the most probable long-term direction, then you really what you get is good buying or selling opportunities. I'd say probably, you know, a good example is actually the pound dollar trade right now, where we're very bearish on the weekly. Very bearish on the weekly, and you know, really any spike up after this consolidative action here, where we finally broke down below yesterday. You know, it was a nice honest move, and then we retrace some of that move on this news. There's really not a lot of threat to the upside here, you know, unless something phenomenal happens with the pound today and something horrible happens with the dollar, then, you know, then we'll have an issue. But let's see, yeah, earnings, average hourly earnings increased. That's good. Previous was 0.1%, consensus was 0.2, the actual was 0.3. Labor force participation, worse than expected, 63.5 was the consensus. The actual was 62.9, but the previous was 63. So, I mean, we're talking a little bit of a 0.1% of a difference. I don't think we have anything horrible to write home about there. New Zealand dollar caught a bit of a spike there. See what happens with the dollar yen here. We just kind of got to let these things wait out. So, you know, we'll kind of take a little step away from all of these for a second while we analyze kind of our long-term outlook on these trades. Let me see here. I'm kind of upset. I'm just looking at the U.S. dollar Canadian dollar trade here, and it oh, there it goes. May entertain a long in here. We'll just watch. Okay, pulling this up here. You know what? Didn't want that one. Wow, what's it doing? Okay, feast thine eyes on this. This looks a little confusing. Do a little kind of education stuff while these markets calm down and relax a little bit and decide to revert back to their means here. This chart may look a little wonky. All right, this is the dollar yen on a weekly chart, and you see all these squiggly lines. Well, these squiggly lines are Gann planetary lines. All right, so each line represents a planet's longitude translated onto a price chart. So the bands here, these ones that are mostly horizontal, this is the dark one is Pluto, okay? And then the kind of purplish one here, it almost looks just as black depending on your screen, is Neptune. And then we have the orange band here is Jupiter, which is arguably the most important planet in the markets. And then we have Saturn here, which is in the yellow, arguably also one of the most important planets. And then red is Mars. And then we have Venus and Mercury is the blue and the green. Okay, so really, what does this all mean? How do you interpret or look at these? Well, planetary lines on a price chart, they are natural areas of support and resistance. Natural being that they are just part of nature, that the translation of that is just done, it's just you can't really change the construct of these lines. They're not subjective. Like I answered a question on Quora last night, and they said, do support and resistance actually exist, or is it just subjective? And it's both. If we take just like you could just take the past price action. So like right here, if we highlight this zone, this is an area of support and resistance because price has traded within that value area. Okay, that's a pretty dynamic and subjective form of support and resistance. Whereas the structure that I use is a static. This is based on geometry and the long-term historical prices. Really just based off the extreme high and low of the dollar yen, and based on natural harmonics as well. So really, these levels in how we approach them from the standpoint of where they come from is the same as planetary lines. And I just want to show how interesting. You know what? Let me just use a new chart here. And we'll bring it over to a weekly, and then I think I was doing this last night, so sure. And let's set this to Jupiter. Okay, so this is Jupiter, just Jupiter on a weekly chart, and it's pretty fascinating how well on a long-term time frame how well Jupiter has really essentially caught the bottoms and the tops of the dollar yen. That's how it has traded. Okay, it's pretty neat. Now we could also our harmonics. We could add in harmonics as well to really bring things into context here. Let's go to the daily. And we can literally trade off of the Jupiter harmonics. And what's interesting is that even the slope and the pitch of these bottoms and tops match up almost exactly with the bands of these inner harmonics. We can even create them tighter, or we could go just 4 and see these. I mean, it's a pretty fascinating look at the market. We could also do the inverse move, and we kind of create like a cross section here. Okay, so we can put it on reverse and see similar areas of support and resistance. Okay. Hold on. Everything all right? Okay. Making sure my wife didn't crack her skull or something. Okay. But we saw on the other chart that also we saw, you know what? Hold on. on here. I think I'm going to throw in a few trades here real quick, guys, because don't need that. I have NZD USD short at 0.7255. And we might go long on UJ here at 107.37. Might create another leg up here. Okay, yep, got those in, and we'll see how they play out for right now. Okay, I should have waited 15 minutes, but we'll see. We'll see if they run away from us or if they end up working out. So, this wasn't the only harmonic, or the only planet that we saw. There was another one. Why don't we just color this one orange? And then we'll do another, and we'll use Saturn. Saturn exhibits similar kind of behavior. But when you compare it to, I mean, it seems to, Jupiter is definitely more efficient for this instrument, okay? So each planet is going to be a different kind of response. Or what I'm trying to say is some planets are more powerful on some instruments. And this goes for stocks, equities, futures. Currencies, though, currencies are very, very sensitive to Jupiter on the whole. So let's take how about the Aussie dollar, US dollar? Let's do the same thing. Here, let's go, tools, should use, and let's do the same. Jupiter. Go to weekly. You can see that Jupiter is also very, very sensitive in the Aussie dollar, like crazy. I mean, it's pretty nuts. But you know, we gotta figure out, are there others that you know, that look like it would work? Pluto. Let's color these differently here. So let's use black. No. So Pluto's black lines there. That also seems to hold up as a kind of resistance zone, so to speak, but in support, resistance and support, but not as structured as Jupiter. Check out Neptune, either Uranus, Saturn. There's a lot of argument for Saturn there. Jupiter, we've already got. Mars. Mars is a little different. Mars is what's considered a trigger planet, okay? And this was one of Gann's big things that he pointed out was that the key to timing was Mars. And so if we're looking at this chart, I want you to take a look at when Mars, let's change the color. When Mars and Jupiter intersect and the market is near that value area, what happens? It creates major turns in the market. Okay? You have to wait a while for these to happen, but when they do, you will see significant changes and moves. And we may even see them on the intra-channels of Jupiter. It's possible that we need to, maybe. Now this is definitely a process where you want to make it fit the narrative. You want to create a condition where your analysis is going to match past price behavior, and because that's very important when you're using planetary phenomena. Let's bring this down to the daily. And yeah, we do see that. We do see that happen quite a bit. So price reaches the bottom channel. Mars intersects. We have a rally. Okay. Price is coming down to the channel. Where price isn't down there. We are coming down to the channel. Crosses. We would think it would go up, but it didn't. It fell down. That should just be, when you have a failed test, that should be enough of a sign to reverse direction. Pretty cool stuff. Boom, right there on that intersection. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. How does that look on cryptocurrencies? Now, Mars is, I've noticed, extreme. We'll get back to Forex stuff here, and we'll go back to the trading view charts. Just, this is something we can do while we're waiting for the markets to adjust themselves and figure out where they're going and what they want to do. Because our pound, let's just check that real quick. So our pound trade, New Zealand dollar trade, that's working beautifully. Dollar yen trade's working. Well, we're almost there. Pound short at 140.02. We're 7 pips in the profit on that one. So far, so good. Still a lot of activity. Let's watch it and see what happens. Okay, let's go to tools, lines. And this one's kind of funky because we got to get... what did I get here? Oh man, I'm gonna be upset. Oh no, I'm not. Never mind. So we have Jupiter again, And the struggle here is to find the right scale. I have not found out which one is actually works the best with Bitcoin yet. It's kind of a, because there's so little price action, and you know that's too much, and the default of 10 is too much still. And you think of 25, that's, you know, that doesn't seem right either. You know, we do 100, maybe 75. What about 50? No. We could do how about 6.1.8? No. Why don't we just go with 100? Plot some of those harmonics in here. Do you see any kind of structure that gets agreed to here? Maybe Jupiter is not a good one to use here. Let's check. Pluto, no. Neptune, no. Uranus, no. Saturn, maybe. Jupiter. Mars is a wild one. And I kind of like Mars. Mars is very, it's very sensitive to Bitcoin. If we use the default though, I mean we've got really we're using Mars's angles here. And I was using Mars on another form of analysis, and Mars seems to be probably the planet that is most sensitive to Bitcoin. Or Bitcoin is really sensitive to Mars, rather. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this is a decent planet one. Anyways, I mean, we look, you know, in the past, bring us back over to the dollar yen here. We see that, you know, definitely Jupiter is the favorite. And let's go back to our Forex market. Okay, what do we got going on? Okay, so the pound dollar, that's running away a little bit. Not a whole lot. Let's keep an eye on that one. New Zealand dollar is not showing a lot of strength here. It's certainly not showing a lot of oomph. And the dollar yen is struggling to stay above. Let's check out the euro. Euro, I mean, it's pretty flat. Pretty hasn't moved much at all. I mean, other than the volatility you get on that news release, but otherwise not a whole lot of stuff happening here. Again, you know, these are days where unless you have active long-term positions, long-term I'm talking like you're holding them for a while, these aren't the great. This isn't the greatest day to trade. In fact, Friday should kind of be treated like a day off. I know in the MAM account we have made some significant gains this week, and I'm just not really interested in giving back. I'm interested in sitting and a couple of these trades that we put in, I'll watch them play out and see if they are going to be able to be money makers or not. But otherwise, not really looking at taking any short-term trades today because it's too volatile right now. And also, again, I say this every Friday, the longer we get closer to the noon hour, the less liquidity we get in the market. Fewer participants, fewer moves, so you can just end up getting frustrated, especially if you're in a losing position already. Let's take a peek at our markets on a long-term look here. We've got the clouds over here. Let's take a look. So, dollar yen on the daily may experience a little bit of a pullback again here. Maybe not though. I mean, we are turning up, which is great. So we'll keep our eyes on this one. Based on the weekly, we're still really bullish. So looking to get back in on any deep pullback. That's what we really want to do. The New Zealand dollar on the daily, really continuing to push down here. Let me looking at this on the daily on the cloud. And let's check out the euro on our weekly. Strong thrust down on the weekly. That is a pretty bearish sign. God, volume has been drying up on this, hasn't it? That's good. It means that we don't have a lot of buyers in here. Probably have a lot of people who are trying to go long trapped right now. It's rough for people who are trying to hold this long. Based on our weekly and where we're sitting, we are probably more than likely going to go where this arrow is pointing, and that's to this 120 zone. On the weekly, we're getting kind of extended a little bit on the weekly here in the composite index, but on the RSI, we're still trending down, so that is still a valid sell. We may end up having some dry spells with our longer short positions here on the euro dollar. Gonna wait for like a clear break of one direction. So we'll keep an eye on that. The dollar yen, we are bullish. Based on this setup here, we are bullish. Those anymore. Don't need this anymore. Don't need that anymore. That's a nice, healthy. This is a good structure. This is great. This is very nice. We should really like this. Yeah. So we're still pretty long on our dollar yen trade. Not interested in shorting this at all yet. New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar, though, on the weekly we are looking a little a little heavy on the downside with some bullish, uh, uh, look here. Slight bounce, but here's the deal: is that we're right in the history of the composite index of the New Zealand dollar. When we start moving down and then we come up and we touch this, because you can kind of see an invisible resistance line here at the 50 zone. That may be a new resistance zone, and so judging from where these levels are, we may continue further down. Yeah, those are some. That's a choppy trade right there. Ooh. Pound dollar. We are looking at the short trade still. It's a double top on the weekly. We're above the 50 mark barely here, but we are looking to go lower starting next week again. We've had great trades on this. I mean, we've really had some great moves on the pound dollar. Euro pound. I don't know how you describe this. Just flat as flat can be. U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. Now we're probably looking at, we're getting into nice bounce territory here. When it returned back to the pivot, that's awesome. We are curling down, but really though, looking at the good possibility of higher prices. Our daily charts looking a little bearish. Gosh, actually, we're probably looking at a further retracement down. We'll see. We'll have a better look by the end of the day, but anyways, this has been a marvelous and a fantastic trading week. Taking a lot of money out of this market and put it in our pockets, and we should continue to do that. And take what you've earned this week and last week, and be proud of it. Treat yourself nicely. Take your spouse out for dinner. Buy yourself something nice. It's important to reward yourself when you and pay yourself when you do well in the market. Okay. Anyways, congratulations for everybody this week who's had some great and successful trades. And I will talk with you next week. Bye-bye.